Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Above the Rim Rundown, where we run down all things NBA. I am one of your hosts, Memo, and right beside me, I've got Hoops. How you doing?
What's going on, man? For the most part, I've been doing good, just pretty much getting through the life routine and obviously recently the NBA season pretty much officially ended with game 7 just happening yesterday actually. And I would say for the most part it was a pretty entertaining finals. Much better, I would say much better playoffs than last year, that's for sure. Like last year's playoffs was relatively disappointing. This year's playoffs had a lot more high moments, I think. And then cherry on top is that it wasn't a team that we didn't like winning the championship. So that also helped for sure. Um but yeah, overall I say doing good and just getting through. How you been?
Alright. Still recovering from that crazy Game 7. I don't know if you saw my, I guess, portion of last episode, I guess, where I talked about Game 7. But if you watched that, you could tell that I was really upset. And I'm still a little upset with what happened. Like, I was very sad about what happened to Tyrese Halliburton, very heartbroken by that. But as you said, we didn't really have a horse in this race. OKC is a great team. I'm happy they were able to get their first chip. Now we could return the OKC Seattle titles back to Seattle once Seattle gets their team back, hopefully, one day. That would be great. But yeah, we have a lot to do, but I do kind of want to continue talking about Game 7 with you just because you weren't there with my initial, I guess, portion of the last episode where I went over Game 7. And as we are recording, as you just mentioned, it's still fresh in the mind, right? It literally happened yesterday. It's been such a mind fuck for me. I am upset for many reasons, including having to drink this, which I'll pop open real soon. It's the ranch dressing soda that I have to drink. I'll pop that open real soon. But, um, you know, you don't have to go into depth about Game 7 and what happened in the game, but like, let's start off with the Tyrese Halliburton injury. I know you were definitely a bigger Tyrese Halliburton fan going into, I guess, the season than I was, and then like later on throughout the season, throughout the playoffs, I became a huge fan of him. But you were a believer since like the beginning. So what was it like watching him tear his ACL in Game 7?
Yeah, it was definitely really tough to watch for sure. Obviously, one being a really big Tyrese fan in general, one of the I think one of the more exciting young players to watch in the league. Obviously had a little bit of a down year this year compared to last year. But overall, obviously, when he had to show up, he often did like, in late game situations. And seeing him go down was obviously really tough to see because not only was it tough to see him go down and having to miss time now, that pretty much like massive drastically decreased like the Pacers' chances of winning that game. And obviously not really having like a specific horse in the race, but it just sucks to see a game practically get decided due to an injury. Like sure the Pacers still were like relatively in it and they had a chance to come back and end, but the chances were just so much more slim without their overall best player. Obviously Siakam was a little bit more consistent throughout the playoff run, but I would say pretty safe to say Tyrese is the overall best player on the team. So yeah, that was definitely really tough to watch for more reasons than one, but primarily Tyrese getting hurt. Definitely wish him a speedy recovery there. And I saw this one post that was saying old the players that got in the players that injured their ACL slash Achilles in the playoffs all wear number 0. That being Dame, Tatum, and Tyrese. I
Weird
I honestly
coincidence.
almost forgot about it. Is crazy. I almost forgot about the Dame one, honestly. Maybe because it was round one, but and he didn't play a lot, but yeah, definitely crazy tough coincidence there, and unfortunate that the Pacers season had to end with their superstar getting a pretty major injury. But overall, this was a pretty good, successful season for them, even though they just fell short. They literally pushed it to the limit. Game seven. Um, so many crazy comebacks when they looked dead in the water this playoff run. In my book, like if the Pacers would have won the championship, that would have been one of the greatest underdog stories ever. OKC winning it, they definitely deserved it. They were clearly the best team in the league this year, but it just doesn't seem as obviously not as hard earned because we were expecting them to win it in a way versus Indiana is like if they would have won it, it would have been like no one saw it coming. Overall though, I do think that if OKC deserved to win the championship, I am happy for them. And as you said, this now gives the right that they now have a real OKC championship. And then if Seattle gets their team back, they can just hand that one back to Seattle. So no more carrying a practical, well, same franchise ownership, a different city. No more carrying another city's championship. Definitely makes things feel more right for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Other than the Pacers, though, like talking about the Thunder, this is although it's a little bittersweet for me. I am happy for OKC in the fact that we predicted this. So, like we predicted this before the season started. So, how do you feel being able to predict that and seeing how this very very young team can like what are the chances of this young team moving forward, um, being able to win more championships in your opinion?
I feel like the chances of them winning another championship is like really high. Matter of fact, like if they didn't win another championship, that would be a massive disappointment. And then obviously looking into next season, Celtics practically out of the race with Tatum out for most of, if not all, the year. Um, Now Tyrese is gonna probably miss about the same length, maybe longer because he got injured like a month later. Um, so Eastern Conference, super unpredictable. As far as the Western Conference goes, obviously Western Conference is quite strong and obviously clearly the stronger conference. Um, but it's like at the moment, I just don't know which team would I think there are teams that could take down OKC. I just don't know like who if they would actually get the job done fully. I mean, obviously the Nuggets were pretty close, even though they were like kind of injured. Um, Maybe if like the Warriors um put together some depth and chemistry, they could be a threat. I don't know if they're gonna get it done. Lakers possibly if they can make some change and hopefully get better in certain areas. Timberwolves if Ant it can also get healthier. But at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of those teams will more so be challengers than like major threats of taking them down at this point in time. So definitely work needs to be done from the other Western Conference teams and surely the Eastern Conference teams. At this moment, like I don't really know who would be like the favorites coming out next year. I mean, maybe the Knicks, but like and again, like it's also like so many different factors playing in. Like so, I would say Eastern Conference absolutely wide open. Western Conference is going to be a dogfight again. At this moment in time, it looks like OKC is surely the favorites to potentially repeat.
Yeah, it all depends on what happens this offseason, of course. Like, we already saw some crazy moves with Durant going to Houston. Houston was the second seed this season, and they struggled with getting buckets, and Kevin Durant, all he does is gets buckets. So, that's definitely a good addition for them, right? So, as you mentioned, I think there's challengers, but there's no real threat in the West for OKC. At least at this moment, we don't know. We don't know. Anything you want to say? Anything else you want to say about Game 7 or just the NBA Finals in general? Or should we actually jump into the meat and potatoes, talking about our top 20 playoff performers from this year's playoffs? Uh, do you want to say anything else, or should we just move on?
Honestly, I feel like I've addressed most of what I really needed to. For the most part, I think safe to say this was one of the better NBA finals we had in a while. I don't know how I would say like exactly how many years it's been the best. Like, but I will say it's definitely been better than I would say it's for sure probably the best of the last like 4 to 5. Like 2024, 23, and 22 were not that good. 21 I thought was relatively good, the Bucks and the Suns one. So, if anything, I would say I was definitely the best one since 2021, at least. So, yeah, overall, I'm glad that. Also, cool to see two small market teams prove narrative wrong because usually I feel like NBA wants to see big market teams succeed due to their, I guess, popularity and viewership purposes. Like seeing small market teams get the job done is also a nice a breath of fresh air. So definitely shout out to both the Thunder and the Pacers this season for pretty much proving people wrong about small market teams.
Yeah, shout out to them. But I guess this is a good time to transition to what this episode is all about. You know, we talked about Game 7 of the NBA Finals, we talked about the playoffs, but let's talk about the top 20 performers from this year's playoffs in 2025. Uh, as so, the plan is we're gonna do the typical list things where we talk about our honorable mentions, and we're gonna go over our list by chunks and stuff like that. But as you guys all know by now, we had a little wager. You know, we both predicted OKC would win the finals, but Hoops was rooting for OKC. At least, that's the team he preferred. I preferred the Pacers. As you guys probably could tell from my Game 7 coverage, I was upset for many reasons. And the biggest reason why is because the loser of that wager, the loser of the bet, has to drink this rancid ranch dressing soda. So, as we're recording, as we're talking, my goal is to finish this entire thing by the end of the episode. I am not excited at all. Um, I feel like my biggest fear is that I'm either gonna throw up because of how disgusting this is, or this might be, or I'm gonna just end up loving it and be known as the guy that likes ranch dressing soda. It's a lose-lose situation either way. So I guess we'll get started. I'm gonna open this up right now. I got my keys here so I can open this. Any words of wisdom before I take my first sip of ranch dressing soda?
I would say if if you get too nervous about it, try to I guess not think much. I guess like try to like swallow down fast and hope not have too big of an aftertaste. That's what I would probably do, honestly.
Oh God,
But
I'm nervous, but I gotta do
now
a nice big swig before we get started. I think that's only
now to
right.
see. Yeah, I would say one it's time to find out is the ranch soda actually not that bad? Or is it really that bad?
I guess we'll see. You want to do a countdown?
All right. How many seconds of a countdown do you want?
We'll do 3.
5 seconds,
We'll
10
do 3.
seconds, 3? All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh God. Oh my God. Ah, dude. At first
Oh,
it wasn't that bad, but then the smell kicked in. It just made things worse. Okay.
oh. So,
Let's.
so would you like to give, I guess,
Oh
try
my
to
God.
explain? Would
Oh
you like to
shit.
try to explain the taste a little bit to the viewers? Like, does it genuinely taste like ranch or like
uh,
even extra to it?
there's a hint of ranch. I'll say there's a hint of ranch, but yeah, it's like drinking vomit. It's actually rancid. Oh my God. Like
Ah,
as soon as it goes in my mouth, pause. It's not that bad, but then a second later, it like kicks in, and oh, oh, the aftertaste is getting me now. Oh my God. Okay.
I one of the things one of the things I figured about these drinks is it's probably gonna like stick a little bit of an aftertaste. Um, we'll say you can only imagine how some of those other drinks would go if this one is already like this.
Yeah, like there's a mustard one. I'm sure that's awful.
Oh,
Um,
that one sounds nasty.
yeah, I don't know if I'll
Yeah.
ever do that one. There's bacon. I don't know if bacon would be any better since it's a meat. Liquid meat doesn't sound good.
Hmm. Doesn't sound good.
Um, there was pickles. A lot of people like drinking like pickled juice, so maybe depending on the person, it's good. But I'm not a pickle guy.
Yeah.
You're not a pickle
I
guy either.
mean,
Yeah, so I'm sure we
um,
wouldn't like that one. But okay, uh, we've got a long podcast to go over. At least long for me because I'm gonna be dealing with this all night. But yeah, let's go over some honorable mentions, I guess. Or I guess before that, let's go over our kind of guidelines, or at least how we set this up for ourselves. So like, when you were making this list, what were you looking into as you were making it? Like, was it how many games they played, like how many rounds they were able to make, was like certain players that, you know, scored a lot, carried for their team, but were bounced in the first round in like the lower tier, higher tiers. Like, what was your process going through this as I take another sip?
it was definitely a lot of those factors blended together.
God. Oh my God. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh, good. It was definitely a lot of different factors combined. Like one of them is definitely how far a player got. Another would be like consistency, and then on top of that would be also stats also mattering. Like for example, scoring, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, and stuff of that nature. So I tried to like consider everything. Um, maybe a few a little bit more than others, but definitely trying to have all things considered when making this list.
Okay, I'd say I'm the same. I definitely prioritize or try to prioritize uh, like how far you went in the playoffs, but like I did give some good placements for players that might have not gone far, but tried their best out there. So I guess before we read out our 20 or our first chunk, let's do honorable mentions. So who were some of your honorable mentions that did not make the cut?
Yeah, so honestly, some of the honorable mentions that I listed happen to be some of like the key contributors on the NBA Finals teams. These are not necessarily the most flashy players, but like they're very important to the teams as partial reasons why they got so far. Um, so I decided to list 3 honorable mentions. First one, I decided to show some love to Alex Caruso, aka Laker legend. Um, and the main reason why I put him as an honorable mention is because obviously we've mentioned time and time again, he does a lot of the stuff that are not in the box score, and he's just a straight up hustle guy. And on top of that, what really stood out to me was the fact that he averaged 2 steals in the playoffs. That's pretty good. So yeah, shout out to Alex Caruso, now 2-time NBA champion. Um, Another guy I put as an honorable mention, another guy that was in the NBA Finals, but for the Pacers, Miles Turner. I decided to put him as an honorable mention because he was also, I don't know if quietly would be the right word, but definitely like contributing in a pretty good way that doesn't necessarily get recognized as much as maybe should. And the main thing about him that stood out to me was the fact that he averaged 2 blocks a game. And obviously, you may think like, oh, he's a big man, he's a center, he's expected to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, I feel like definitely he was a huge factor of why the Pacers were able to make it that far. In addition to obviously Tyrese and Pascal, so had to put him on the list there. And then last honorable mention, I put Chet Holmgren. I will say this: he was definitely a little bit inconsistent in the playoffs. Had some disappointing games in the finals, like Game One and Game Six. He didn't really do very good. But at the end of the day, I believe that it would have been pretty unlikely that they win it all and get this far if he was not available. Like obviously during the season there was a stretch when he was out for an extended number of time due to injury, and OKC was still really good. But there were clearly times when at the center position they were lacking a bit. And so without him and his 1.9 block average in the playoffs, I think this Thunder team just doesn't get where they went today. So that is why I also had to give Chet the shout out for honorable mention. So yeah, those would be the 3 guys I have at honorable mentions of the top playoff performers: Alex Caruso, Miles Turner, and Chet Holmgren.
All right. I have a few. I have a good chunk of honorable mentions. I do like yours though. You focus more on like the important role players in the NBA Finals. Hold up. Chet Chet is definitely one of my honorable mentions. That's for sure. He was pretty inconsistent, and his shooting wasn't the best, especially from three. But his defense was elite. I wasn't really thinking of Miles Turner, especially since just like Chet, I feel like he struggled offensively. Sorry about my dog there, but defensively he was pretty good. He was able to actually slow down Chet. A big reason why Chet had bad games was because of Miles Turner. So uh, I do think that's a good shout. And Caruso, the bald eagle, he helped that franchise a lot to get this ring, and was huge during the playoffs, during the finals. I don't think I think the stat was that like he didn't have a single 20-point game in the regular season, but had two 20-point games in the finals, something like that. Uh, that's what the goat, the bald eagle, Caruso brings to the table. So shout out to him. I will say I have a different white point guard that I want to shout out from the finals. TJ McConnell. TJ from the third quarter is always on fire. It seemed like his stats aren't crazy. 9.5 points per game, 3.3 rebounds per game, 4 assists. But man, he tried to carry as much as he can. He was able to shift games as well, and was great offensively when they needed a bucket, and defensively he would get like these crazy sneaky steals. So TJ McConnell is one of my honorable mentions. Oh my god. Sorry. I'm like burping now. Okay. The rest of the honorable mentions I have weren't in the finals. They're just players that I thought were great in their series, but clearly weren't good enough. Franz Wagner is one of my honorable mentions. So decent stats: 24.2 points per game, 5.7 rebounds per game, 4.7 assists. Wasn't the most efficient. Like from three, he was shooting 29.5. That's not the best from a wing, but still, he had some pretty good games against the Celtics. Alperen Şengün had a pretty decent debut in the playoffs. 19.1 points per game, 10.3 rebounds, 4.9 assists. When the Rockets were struggling to get a basket, he would find a way to score, even with Draymond defending him. Sometimes Draymond stopped him, but other times he would find his way. So shout out to him. Still very young, so he's just going to improve from here. His teammate Fred VanVleet was also an honorable mention for me. 18.7 points per game, 4.1 rebounds, 4.4 assists. Kind of decent percentages. 43 field goal percentage, 43.5 from three. He had some pretty big games during that rock fight against the Warriors. Ivica Zubac, I have to give him a mention. 16.8 points per game, 12.6 rebounds, 2.7 assists, and that defense against Jokic was pretty incredible. Like, nobody could slow down Jokic one-on-one, but he's probably the closest to be able to do it in the league. So, shout out to Zubac. And then Aaron Gordon gets a shout out for me for hitting two great, impressive game winners in the playoffs this year, for having some big games. Has decent stats: 14.7 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 3.2 assists, great defense, and was playing through injury in Game 7 against OKC and tried his best out there, which I really appreciated because, as we know, playing through injury is scary. You could really mess things up, and he was able to risk it in order to try his best against OKC. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get their job done, but, they were able to take the champs to 7, which is impressive, and he was a big part of the reason why. So those are my honorable mentions. Is there anything you want to say about those players?
I will say, pretty good collection of players who listed in honorable mentions. There were a few guys that I definitely considered, and then there are a few guys that I honestly didn't really think much of. And I think that a key guy that I definitely thought about putting on the list was for sure Franz Wagner, because he did a lot better in the playoffs this year than last year. Last year he was pretty much a no-show up, especially in that Game 7 against Cleveland. This year, obviously, it was a short playoffs, only one round, and fewer games than last year. I mean, obviously, last year they lost in 7. This year they lost in 5. That being said, he looked a lot better this year. So Franz definitely worthy of being honorable mention. Aaron Gordon, a really good one. You mentioned that. I would definitely say it has an arguable point to potentially be on the list also. And that's simply in large part due to the two game winners that he had. Like right now, it's still kind of hard for me to really say which one was more impressive. Because I think that the dunk was cooler because of how it was literally a millisecond away from not counting. But then the three was a tougher shot. So that's the thing. If you can't really decide which shot was a better shot, then that just proves that both of them were that good. So, Aaron Gordon, definitely worthy of at least being an honorable mention and even arguable to be on the list, really. Um, and then, yeah, honestly, a lot of these, I did like the TJ McConnell shout out for sure because, I will admit I didn't necessarily think of him when as a top 20 when making this list. but it's without a doubt that he was very good and underrated this playoff run. And obviously, Pacers fell short, but he definitely kept them in the race for to like at least have some life, even though they didn't get it done. And definitely a lot of respect for him. So yeah, I think those are the main three guys that you mentioned that I really um liked that stood out from the list. I will say, I think for the most part, those guys that you mentioned were either on my honorable mention or were not on my list. There was only one guy that I happened to actually have on my list, and that was Şengün. I can talk about that later. But yeah, overall, I like your collection of honorable mentions.
Okay, cool, cool. I guess this would be a good time to reveal our first chunk. We're gonna go from 20 to 16. We'll see if we'll have that Shingun conversation real soon. But yeah, we're gonna reveal our list to each other. I'll take us up. Dude, I've gotta get going. I barely made a dent. This is gonna be awful.
Yeah. Chug
No way.
and try not to think about it.
I'm not chugging that. Like
I mean,
I
like,
could taste the chemicals. Like it's that bad.
yeah. I feel like it's tricky because, like, you can think of it two ways: chug and get it over with, or it's like that's also a lot to handle at once.
Yeah, I was gonna do this without drinking water too, but I think I have to. I think I have to drink some water because
Yeah, it might be a
it's
bit much.
it's a bit much. Yeah, but okay, I'm revealing my five in the doc right now. Ooh, interesting. Okay. So Hoops, I'll have you go first and go over your 20 through 16.
All right, so at number 20, I got Jamal Murray. At number 19, I got Jalen Williams. At number 18, I got Alperen Şengün. Number 17, Cade Cunningham. And number 16, Jalen Brown.
And for me, I've got at number 20 Kawhi Leonard, 19 Jamal Murray, 18 LeBron James, 17 Steph, and 16 Cade Cunningham. So we've got like the two like around the same area. My biggest question mark is Jalen Williams. You know, he was the second guy for the team that won the championship. So I guess I'll have you go first, going over your list. But yeah, definitely Jada being this low is surprising to me.
Yeah. So I will get right to it. So Jamal Murray, the reason why I have him at number 20, first off, I think that he had a very solid series versus the Clippers, but he was quite inconsistent versus the Thunder, which is part of the reason why I have him just barely making the list. Overall, I thought he was still really good, so I had to include him on here. J Dub definitely can see the argument why he should be higher on the list. Ultimately, I guess probably I just put him a little bit lower due to I would say more so due to the stature as some of the other guys that I put higher on the list. Overall though, solid number two option for OKC all playoff long. Obviously, there were a few games, not very many games that he didn't show up. I mean, like, I think he struggled in game six against the Nuggets, I believe, when they lost in Denver, and then he struggled in game three against the Timberwolves when they lost by 42. Aside from that, though, like, J-Dub was pretty solid all playoff long, and for the most part, he was pretty consistent. So I would definitely understand why you would think that he should be higher. Um, Number 18 though, Alperen Şengün. so obviously he was only in one playoff round this year, but I thought it was a pretty good one. Um, Averaged 20.9 points, 11.9 rebounds, 5.3 assists, 1.9 steal, and or I probably maybe I made a mistake on like the which stat, but I feel like it would be like a 1.9 steal and zero point 0.4 blocks. Um, Nonetheless, though, he was clearly the number one option for the Rockets that were able to take the Warriors to the distance, which honestly, like, doesn't sound impressive because they were the 2 seed and they lost against the 7 seed. But my point being said is he was one of the fewer consistent bright spots from that Rockets team. Like, if you are the 2 seed, you should not have lost against the 7 seed. But he was certainly not the reason that they lost. And this guy pretty much he put the Rockets on his back. Um, as far as those other guys in Houston, like obviously they have good players that were worthy of being mentioned, but um, also a lot of those guys had some down games that really cost them potentially the series. I mean, obviously game one, Fred VanVleet was horrible. He was good for the rest of the series for the most part, but that game one was so costly. Jalen Green, don't even get me started. He was like bashed for the most part, aside from like 1 or 2 games. And look at him now. He's not even in Houston anymore. But yeah, I had to put Şengün on the list due to his consistency on the Rockets for that one playoff round. Um, Cade, I think for his first playoff series, playoff appearance, he was pretty solid. 25 points, 8.3 rebounds, 8.7 assists, 1.8 steals, and 1.3 blocks. Pistons, obviously, they were a victim to bad officiating for primarily that game four when Tim Hardaway Jr. got slapped on the wrist, but they didn't call it. Um, but nonetheless, like, very good. We've already mentioned this time and time again, like, very good turnaround for the Pistons, more than tripling their wins from last season. Very, very good accomplishment. Definitely can use that to build for next season. And Cade had a pretty good first run in the playoffs. Just hopefully use this as momentum to do even bigger things going forward. And then number 16, Jaylen Brown. So I will say, for the most part, I thought Jaylen Brown, he was good. He wasn't as good as he was last year, obviously. And obviously, Celtics season got cut short due to Tatum injury. Game Game 5 in Boston, I believe that was a game when Jaylen Brown did pretty good to help them extend one more. Game 6, the entire team really didn't show up. Um, at the end of the day, though, despite Jaylen Brown's somewhat underwhelming performance this year, despite still being pretty good, I felt like he was definitely worthy of being on the list simply due to the fact that he was able to still maintain a good enough ground as more of a number 2 than the 1A, 1B option last year. So I guess due to stature, had to include him on the list as well. So those are pretty much my reasonings for why I put these guys at where I put them. Um, would you like to say anything about my list first before you go over yours?
Yeah, so I guess the thing that's surprising me is like the how stature is a proponent within your list, because yeah, I just did not see that coming, honestly. Like, I have Jalen Williams a lot higher. A big reason why is because he was, you know, on OKC who won the championship. But I could see an argument on like stat wise, why maybe Cade Cunningham did better than Jalen Williams, maybe Jalen Brown. I don't really see it for Şengün, like either way, like stature, stats, the way that Şengün got bounced in the first round while J-Dub won a chip. That one's definitely the more confusing decision, I feel like. Like, what was your reason on Şengün being higher than J-Dub?
I think part of it was I would say one of it more so being like the fact number one option more so taking the charge versus number two option having to take a little bit of a step back. That was probably like one of the main reasons why I ranked them like this, I think.
Okay. Okay. I still think J-Dub should be higher, but, it's your list. I'll say, like, all of these players being on the list in general makes sense. So, like, I have all of these players except for Şengün on my list. But, Şengün it was one of my honorable mentions, so I'm not mad about him being on here. I'm wondering, is any of the 5 players I mentioned not on your list?
No, all of them are on my list.
Interesting. Okay. I guess I could go over my list right now, and then you could give some thoughts about my list. I hate this. I hate this so much. Yeah, it takes a second for it to hit you. Okay. We'll start with Kawhi Leonard. He did get bounced in the first round, but he had a pretty good playoffs, I would say. 21.5 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game, 3.1 assists. Actually, no, that was his regular season stats. He actually did better, even better in the playoffs. 25 points per game, 7.6 rebounds per game, 4.7 assists per game, 1.1 steals per game. Had some pretty big games as well. Let me double check. He did have a 39-point game and a win in game 2. And yeah, it was a competitive series. Kawhi did his thing for the most part. It was just not enough, so that's why he's at the very bottom on my list. Jamal Murray is who he faced off in round 1, and he is number 19. The second fiddle to Nikola Jokic, 21.8 points per game, 4.9 rebounds per game, 5.2 assists per game, 1.2 steals. He had his moments of inconsistency, especially in Game 7 against OKC. Only 13 points is pretty rough. But he also had some monster games where he had 43 points against the Clippers, or a 28-point performance against OKC. That was in a loss, actually, so maybe that wasn't a huge bright spot, but still, he had his moments, and I think he did better than last year's playoffs. Like, I know he had like a couple game winners against our Lakers last year, so you would think he did better, but stat wise, he wasn't doing the best. I feel like he did pretty well this season and did better than last season. So, Jamal Murray is my number 19, the guy that he bounced last year. LeBron James is my number 18. I guess a lot of people could argue higher since, great stats, very well-rounded. 25.4 points per game, 9 rebounds per game, 5.6 assists per game, 2 steals per game, 1.8 blocks per game. He had some defense, but he also had some moments where, like, he couldn't get buck in game 4, or had some very stupid turnovers, stuff like that. And being bounced in 5 games against Minnesota doesn't really help him out with my rankings. So that is why he's on the lower end. Steph is above him at 17. Went to the second round, but only played one game in the second round due to getting injured. So he didn't really play much this playoffs, but I thought he did pretty good. 22.6 points per game, 5.3 rebounds per game, 5.1 assists per game, and you could tell without him out there, the Warriors offense was struggling. It was playoff Jimmy. Notice how we didn't talk about him at all in honorable mentions. There's a reason why, because he didn't come through. The Warriors definitely would have done a better job against Minnesota if Steph was playing. So that's my 17 and my 16. Cade Cunningham, a pretty good debut for him. 25 points per game, 8.3 rebounds per game, 8.7 assists per game. Very great stats. He even contributed that defensively with 1.8 steals per game, 1.3 blocks per game. Horrible from the three, 17.9, but it doesn't matter because he was able to get his buckets in other ways. And he was like the only offensive source for Detroit. So seeing him do his best out there, get a triple double in these playoffs, and being able to take the Knicks to what was a 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games is pretty impressive for a debut, especially for a team that nobody thought would be in that position. So those are my 5 in this chunk. Any thoughts?
I would say for the most part, the list is reasonable. As mentioned, there were some of these guys that were all of these guys were on my list. A lot of them were higher, and you could argue, like, hey, we're not necessarily the strongest of performances. Like, obviously, the three top guns of a little bit older age, Steph, LeBron, and Kawhi, they got bounced relatively early, as well as obviously Steph technically making it to the second round, but being hurt for a lot of it. So I can understand why you have them lower. I just happen to have them a little bit higher, which I can go over soon. But yeah, for the most part, I would say reasonable despite some differences.
All right, all right. Is this a good time to move on to the next chunk?
Yeah, I would say it would be a good time to move on to the next chunk.
All right, let's do that. Oh my god, I don't even know if I can finish this, dude. It's that bad.
I mean, it seems challenging, not gonna lie.
It is. Okay, I gotta get my next chunk of players. All right, all right. Ooh, okay. Okay, so we've got some similarities. I noticed that you have a cup of. You got all 3 of the oldies in this chunk, so not too much ahead of me. So that's interesting. And we also got 2 other players in similar positions, so I'll have you go first. Read off your list.
Yeah. So number 15, I got Steph Curry. Number 14, I got Kawhi Leonard. Number 13, LeBron James. Number 12, Paulo Banchero. And number 11, Luka Doncic.
And for me, at number 15, I have Jaylen Brown, so just one spot ahead of you. Number 14, Paulo Banchero. 13, Jason Tatum. 12, Luka Doncic. And not number 1, number 11, Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I guess my question before you go over your list is that it's either Jason Tatum was a top 10 playoff performer for you, or he was not on your list whatsoever. I'm guessing it's the first part, but I don't know if you want to spoil that or not, or you just want to go over your list.
Um, why not? It was the first one. Yeah, I
Okay,
do
okay.
have him in the top 10.
Interesting.
And yeah, I can talk more about that later, honestly,
Yeah,
when we
fair,
get
fair.
there. But yeah, honestly, I can just talk over this current group of players honestly first. So number 15, Steph. I feel like he could have been higher if he wasn't injured in the second round. Like point blank, the small sample size, I feel like is what kind of has him lower than he could have been. And another thing is he this playoff run, I feel like he just wasn't necessarily as dominant as like some of his past. Like he had a few like not so good performances against Houston low key. Like one game he only scored 13. Another game he only scored 17, which honestly like 17 is not like that bad in general for an average player. But for Steph standards, like it's not that impressive. And then his against Minnesota, he had a pretty good start honestly before he got hurt. So like there's a lot of what ifs. If Steph was healthy, would they have advanced? Could they have challenged OKC? We just wouldn't know for sure. But overall, I feel like Steph did have a pretty like still pretty good playoff run, but it was a little bit underwhelming for his standards, in my opinion. Um, right above him, Kawhi Leonard. Um, I put him. So I was contemplating a little bit who I should put higher between the two. Ultimately, I put Kawhi higher than Steph just because I feel like he was a little bit more consistent. Because he was like putting up numbers pretty much every game. Obviously, like there are a few games where the Clippers kind of got blown off the roof and whatnot, including Game 7. But I think that Kawhi was a little bit more consistent, so that's why I put him ahead of Steph. LeBron. So the thing about LeBron is it was definitely a little bit of a underwhelming, also frustrating to watch performance for him because like a lot of things you mentioned, like careless turnovers, not really making shots when he really needed to, definitely is the reason why he is not in the top 10. And yeah, pretty much just for his standards, not necessarily where we would like to see him. Um, right above him, Paulo Banchero. So I thought that Paulo had a pretty good playoff run, and it's mostly due to the fact that like he was just putting up numbers and clearly leading the charge for Magic. Obviously, they only won one game against the Celtics, but Paulo was the guy that was consistent in all of them. So that's why I have him here. And then Luca. Now obviously Luca we didn't get to see him as long as we would have liked, obviously due to only one round in the playoffs. For the most part, he was pretty good. And like he definitely was. I mean, for the Lakers, he was clearly the number one guy, and then LeBron took a step back and was the number two guy. Um, if if the Lakers would have advanced further, he for sure would have been in the top 10, I think, if he's already barely out of the top 10 right now. But overall, I thought Luka did pretty good this playoffs, so definitely had to include him. Just so happened to be slightly outside of the top 10. So, any initial thoughts on my list before going over yours?
I thought it was kind of funny how you mentioned some like negatives about some of the players like Steph and Kawhi that I didn't mention. Yeah, you still have them higher. I thought that was kind of funny, but yeah, there were fair criticisms. I'll say. Um, I guess that's partially why I have them lower. So, uh, the logic makes sense. I feel like, and they're not that much higher from where I have them. So I'm definitely not mad about that. So I guess I could go over my list. At 15, I have Jalen Brown. Kind of a downer season for him in general. In the playoffs, he did pretty well. 22.1 points per game, 7.1 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists, 1 steal. Not the best 3-point percentage, 33.3%. But he had his moments. Like, he had duds, I guess. Actually, not really. He had one 16-point game. Everything else was around 20 and higher. What I think his best game, though, was the bounce back game for the Celtics in, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, game 5, where he had 26 points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists. This was the game after Jason Tatum was injured. I thought that was pretty cool seeing him try his best to be the number one guy, and he worked for that game. Didn't work for the next, so that's unfortunate for him and the Celtics, but he had his moments, so I definitely thought he deserved a shout out. Paulo Banchero, kind of similar to Franz, where like he was great offensively for the most part. 29.4 points per game. I forgot he scored that much. 8.4 rebounds per game, 4.2 assists per game. And now looking at this, I was going to say he was kind of inefficient, but it's decent. 43.5 from the field, 44.4 from 3. Actually, now thinking about it, he had a great playoffs. It just didn't last too long because they had to face the Celtics, which is unfortunate for him. But he had some pretty good games. His debut in the series playoffs is 36 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and a block. So not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah, this guy has a lot of potential. So can't wait to see what he does next year. But unfortunately, he did lose to Jason Tatum and the Celtics. Jason Tatum is my number 13. And he had some duds, I will say. But for his numbers are good. 28.1 points per game, 11.5 rebounds per game, 5.4 assists per game, 2.1 steals per game, and almost a block a game. Pretty well-rounded performance from him. Unfortunately, he again had some duds in the Game 2 loss against New York. He had 13 points, 14 rebounds, which is pretty impressive, actually. But, 13 from your main guy is not the best. With that said, though, he had some great games. The game that he got injured in, he ended off with a 40 bomb, 42 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks. I said this before. I'll say it again. I don't think the Boston Celtics would have come back if Jason Tatum was still on the floor. I think they still would have lost the series. But nevertheless, he had a pretty good playoff run, even if there was a few duds. So shout out to Tatum, honestly, and I hope he recovers well. Luka Doncic is my next guy at number 12, right? And he actually scored the second most amount of points per game. That is why he's this high for me. Or that's a big reason why. 30.2 points per game, 7 rebounds, 5.8 assists, a steal. Not the best defender out there, but he was definitely the best Laker during the first round. He was scoring buckets like crazy in his first game in the playoffs as a Laker. Even though it was in a loss, he scored 37 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals. In another loss in Game 4, he had 38 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. So he had pretty good performances. It was just not enough. And then Giannis Antetokounmpo right outside of the top 10. Like, if we were just looking at stats alone, in no other context, Giannis was probably number 1. He had an amazing run, even though it was very short. 33 points per game, 15.4 rebounds per game, 6.6 assists per game, 1 steal, 1 block, had monster performances, tried desperately to carry this team against Indiana, but it was just not enough. He had some crazy performances. He had a 34-18-7 game. He had a 37-12-6 game. He had a 36-12 game. Like, this man was going off. Unfortunately, there was nothing he could have done to defeat the Pacers, especially with his whack ass squad and having Kyle Kuzma being the second best player on the team. Praise to Giannis, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my chunk. Any thoughts on them, or should we move on?
I think for the most part, you have a pretty reasonable explanation for why you put the players at where they're at. Definitely agree on the Giannis part for sure. Like looking at stats himself, he probably is in the top five at worst. But the problem is obviously he did not make it out of round one. The sample size is really small. Obviously, he gave it the most he can. His team was just absolutely awful. So, yeah, that was tough to see. But for the most part, I would say list is reasonable in that set.
All right, cool, cool. So far so good. Nothing too crazy. I feel like in my next chunk, you're gonna eyeball me. You're gonna think I'm a little crazy for what I'm gonna have coming up. But
Mm.
yeah, should we reveal it right now?
Yes, sir. Let's review 10 to 6.
10-6. Oh boy, I found a little strat. I've been trying to stop breathing as soon as I finish drinking because the smell is really getting to me. But even if I hold my breath for a while, it still sucks.
Yeah.
So here we go. Doing all this for like 40 subscribers is crazy.
I mean, we gotta start somewhere, right?
Yeah. Okay. I put mine in. I see yours. Yours looks good. Are you shocked by mine at all?
Um, maybe a little
A little.
bit.
Okay, so I'm not too crazy. Let's review our list so people
Not
know.
too crazy, but there's a few of them.
A
Yeah,
few. Okay.
yeah. So at number 10, I got Donovan Mitchell. Number 9, Jason Tatum. 8, Giannis. 7, Carl Anthony Towns. And 6, Anthony Edwards.
Okay. So at my number 10 spot, beating out Giannis, I have Julius Randle. The only time he'll be higher than Giannis in a list. Then I have Carl Anthony Towns at 9. At 8, Donovan Mitchell. 7, Anthony Edwards. 6, Jalen Brunson. So, based off of your list so far, I highly doubt Julius Randle is in your top 5. So, I'm guessing he didn't make your list.
Yeah, you're correct. So I will say this. I was definitely, I definitely thought about putting him on my list. Ultimately, there were just some of these other guys that I felt like either one were like more flashy or like two did a little bit more for like their teams respectively. And I guess you can argue that point because Randall was definitely a key factor to why they got that far in the first place. But he definitely was a disappointment more towards the end of the run for sure. That was probably one of the reasons why I left him out, honestly. But yeah, I mean, if I were to say why I said a little bit of a shock, I guess one of them is Rando being in the top 10, and then another one would be okay, I will say that I do have Jalen Brunson in the top 5. So I guess that was another shock. But aside from that, I feel like it's not too crazy, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give my reasons soon, but I feel like I have a good argument on why Randall is this high. I'm actually shocked because we were planning on making this episode right before the finals started, so I had my list and I didn't even have Julius in my list or my honorable mentions. I think I just completely forgot about him. But he did have
Yeah.
like his best playoff performance of his life in this year's playoffs. So I'll go over why I have him this high. But let's start with you. Go over your list as I take a sip.
Yeah, so number 10, Donovan Mitchell. So I had him in top 10 because he had a pretty impressive playoff run, I will say. Like he was putting up numbers. He was pretty much putting the Cavs on his back. Unfortunately, at the end, his supporting cast just didn't really show up for him as he showed up for his team. Um, I guess that he put up 32 times, and then he put up like obviously game 3 and 4 were the blowout games. He didn't really have to play as much, so those you hardly even need to consider like what he did because simply put, he just didn't play a lot. And then against the Pacers, he put up over 30 for all 2 games and over 40 for another 2 games. And then he had one game that he just didn't do very good in game 4. But overall, I put him in the top 10 because I felt like he was one of the fewer key bright spots for the Cavs in a disappointing finish to their season. I mean, maybe saying few bright spots might be a little bit too harsh, but he was definitely one of the fewer, more consistent ones, shall we say. Um, but yeah, that's why I have Donovan in the top 10. Jason Tatum, so obviously his playoffs did get cut short due to injury, but I think the reason why I had to put him here was because for the most part, I thought he did pretty good this playoff run. Obviously, game 1 against Orlando, underwhelming, only 17 points in 40 minutes. The rest of that series, though, or yeah, obviously then he missed game 2, but the rest of the series he was pretty solid. He put up 36, 37, and 35 respectively, games 3 to 5. And then against the Knicks, as you mentioned, he had that one game where he played pretty poor game 2 in the 13-point performance. But for the most part, I thought he was, and then obviously he was underwhelming in game 1 also when he was only 4 for 15 from 3. Um, Game 3, nothing too crazy, but still relatively good to put up 22 and on 40% shooting to dig Celtics a little bit closer to 2-1. And in the game where he got hurt, when he put up 42 points and 7 threes to give the Celtics a chance before ultimately getting hurt. I feel like overall, a shortened playoff run for Tatum was still pretty good, so that was why I put him number 9. Now on to Giannis. So a lot of the things you said, I agree pretty much 1,000%. If it was strictly stats only, he probably has a very good case of being number 1. But the reason why he isn't higher is unfortunately due to the fact that his team didn't get very far and they were only one round in. That being said, he scored over 30 in all games but one, and that one game he didn't score 30, he put up 28, which is literally one basket away from 30. So, yeah, Giannis was practically hard carrying the Bucks and just didn't really have any help. Think of it like what LeBron had to go through in 2018, except he somehow carried that team all the way to the finals. Giannis just clearly did not have enough. I mean, like, obviously, it's just not as good as. If you think about it, like, as bad as the supporting cast LeBron had, at least he still had, like, a Kevin Love and so forth. But, unfortunately, Giannis just had Dame who was hurt and didn't really get to play. and then Kyle Kuzma. Yeah, that wasn't gonna cut it. Um, yeah. So then at number 7, I put Cat, and I thought that Cat had a pretty good playoff run, honestly. As the number 2 option for the Knicks. At times, he was really a 1A, 1B with Brunson because they were practically like rotating, um, I guess, taking jabs at who would be the leading guy in certain games. And Pat was definitely responsible for some key victories that they had in this playoff run and some pretty clutch shots also. Um, Against, I think the games that really stood out to me was game 3 against the Pistons, and then game 4 against the Pistons, he was also pretty good. And then against the Celtics, I think game 2 and game 4, he really stood out to me. And then against the Pacers, it was mostly like he was great in game 1, which unfortunately got overshadowed from that collapse. But I particularly remember that game 3 when the Knicks absolutely needed to win on the road, and he was a huge reason why they were able to get it done to stay alive. So that was a key reason why I have Cat number 7. And then number 6, I got Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man. And I will say his earlier round 1 and round 2, he was looking very great. And then unfortunately, conference finals, he didn't get to play as good as he probably would have due to being banged up. And unfortunately, they just couldn't really be as competitive as we would have liked or thought against OKC. But honestly, I would say Ant was not the reason. I mean, like, obviously he was hurt, but like he did his very best for the most part. Overall, though, I think that he could, now that he has 2 years playoff. Well, okay, 3 years, I believe. Well, okay, scratch that again. He's had several years of playoff experience, but he has now had back-to-back Western Conference Finals appearances. Um, Maybe, just maybe, hopefully, for my sake, honestly, it would be cool to see him take another leap. Maybe he'll make the finals. Obviously, OKC being a massive barrier, but yeah, that would be cool to see. So yeah, shout out to Ant, and I think that he had a relatively good playoff run once again. So that would be my list from 10 to 6. Any initial thoughts before going over yours?
Um, Not really. Like, I had Jason Tatum lower. That's probably the one thing I guess Giannis being this high is kind of crazy since he was bounced in the first round. But then again, I have him right outside the top 10 with 11. So I really should I have no like. It's not that big of a deal, honestly. Like, these names make sense, I guess. I Yeah, I think it's fine. I think we're good. So I guess I could go over my list after a quick sippy. Yeah, definitely. Stopping the when I stop breathing, it helps. It helps. Okay. Starting with my number 10, Julius Randle. A big reason why he's here is because of how far he was able to go in the playoffs and his improvement in the playoffs. He was a notable playoff dropper. He would be good during the regular season and be crap in the playoffs. But this season, he came through for the Timberwolves for the most part. Averaged 21.7 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game, 4.9 assists per game. Has some games where his three ball was going down. Whooped the Lakers' asses. He had a 16-point game in his Minnesota playoff debut. And then after that, 20 plus point games from there on in the first round. Similar in the second round against Golden State, he had an 18-point performance in game 1 against the Warriors, and then from there on, 20 plus in game 6. No, 1, 2, 3. In game 4, he had 31 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists against the Warriors, so shout out. It's against OKC, where he had some pretty disappointing games, most notably in the loss in game 2 and in game 4. I guess he doesn't like even number games in the conference finals. Other than that, he had great games, but yeah, pretty. Those 2 games reminded me of New York Randall, but actually probably worse. I don't think he's ever scored that low in a series, so I could be wrong though. But still, this was by far his best playoffs in his career, and yeah, being able to make it this far in the playoffs in the Western Conference Finals, going through tough teams, and being that sidekick for Ant is pretty impressive. So shout out to him. Speaking of Ant's sidekicks, his former one, Karl Anthony Towns, had a pretty good playoffs as well. 21.4 points per game, 11.6 rebounds per game, 1.3 assists per game. Great offensively. He still has his moments where he does a dumb foul, or he turns the ball over, stuff like that. Some poor decision making, but other than that, like offensively, he did pretty well. He had some great games. Only like a couple of duds, honestly. He had a couple of 10-point games, a 14-point game, but he also had like 31 and 8 against the Pistons. He had 35 and 12 against the Pacers in a loss. So he had some great scoring performances. Not the most perfect, but still, he did pretty good and was able to make it into the Eastern Conference Finals with Brunson as the second guy. So because of that, he is this high at number 9. At number 8, Donovan Mitchell didn't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, even though that's what I was predicting, but still, he had a pretty good playoffs. He's definitely one of the best playoff risers in the NBA. Averaged 29.6 points per game, 4.7 rebounds per game, 3.9 assists per game, 1.9 steals per game. He had some big games against Indiana. Not the most efficient for some of these games, but still, like, he had a 43-point game, a 48-point game, a 35-point game. He was going off. He was desperately trying to carry the Cavs. Unfortunately, it was not enough, but still, he did great. He did his part, at least offensively. That's why he's my number 7. Anthony Edwards, no. He's my number 8. Anthony Edwards is my number 7. 25.3 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, 5.5 assists per game, 1.1 steals per game. He had his moments, kind of like last year, where he struggled shooting the ball, like in game 4 against OKC. He only had 16 points in game 1 of that series. He had 18 points. That's not what you want to see from your superstar, hopefully future MVP, but still, for the most part, he had a great playoffs, shooting the ball, getting others involved as well. He improved as a playmaker for sure. So yeah, shout out to Ant. And then Jalen Brunson is right outside of my top 5. He averaged 29.4 points per game, 3.4 rebounds per game, 7 assists per game. Had a game winner, I believe, against the Pistons, so that's always fun. That's always cool. Had some monster games. He had 43 points against Indiana in game 1. 39 against the Boston Celtics in game 4 in a W. That's cool. 40-point performance to close out the series against the Pistons. He had a great performance. You know, maybe there's some foul beating. I don't know. But overall, I think he was great. He was fun to watch as well. That's always a plus. So yeah, he might not be in my top five, but he's right outside. He's not too far. So, any more thoughts on my list?
Say not much more aside from what I said earlier. So for the most part, I would say reasonable.
All
Even though
right.
I was like slightly shocked about Rando initially, but now that you like explain it more, I could see why.
Okay. Cool. Cool. I guess this is the moment we've been waiting for. The top five, ladies and gentlemen. The top five playoff performers in our opinion. We're gonna reveal the top five to each other right now. I copied. I have pasted. And ooh, you know what? I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. Um I definitely want to know your thoughts on my list, but right now, honestly, kind of makes sense. But yeah, I'll have you go first. Go over, read off your list.
All right, so number five, I got Tyrese Halliburton. Number four, I got Jalen Brunson. Number three, Pascal Siakam. Number two, Nikola Jokic. And at number one, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
All right. Number five, I have Nikola Jokic, and then from there on out, I had basically the Batman of Robin and Robins for both the Thunder and Pacers. So Jalen Williams is my number four, Pascal Siakam number three, number two Tyrese Halliburton, and number one Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. So we have the same number one. We have Nikola Jokic in the top five. We have several people in similar spots. The biggest difference is you having Brunson in the top five. I have J Dub in the top five, who was in, barely in your top 20, which is kind of crazy to look back at. Now, that's definitely our biggest discrepancy. That one is our biggest difference. Um, how should we go about this? Do you want to explain why? Like, actually, I'll have you just go over your list. How about that?
Yeah, I'll do that. So, Tyrese being number five. So obviously the thing about Tyrese that we've mentioned time and time again is he had a little bit of an inconsistent playoff run. Like one game he'll do great, another game he kind of doesn't really show up. And I feel like that's the thing that really prevented me from putting him higher on this list. But at the end of the day, I had to put him top five because one, he was able to make it to the finals, and two, obviously he had some really clutch shots that a lot of those clutch shots put his underwhelming performances behind him. Like game one of the finals, he didn't really do that good. Then he makes that shot, and we completely forget about all that because he capitalized the moment that mattered the most. So, Tyrese definitely worthy of being on the top five due to his clutchness. Um, Brunson at number four. So, the main reason why I have Brunson this high is because I thought that he did a really good job of showing up late. And obviously, like we all knew in the regular season, Brunson was a very good clutch time player. And he did that. Particularly, the one that stood out was game four against, I know, game six, closing game against the Pistons. When he put up 40, he put up the go ahead three to help the Knicks come back and end that series. It was amazing. And he scored 30 plus in every game in the first round except for game five when he only scored 16. Against the Celtics, his numbers were not necessarily like as crazy good as the Pistons series, but nonetheless, he was still really solid to the point that they were able to dethrone the defending champs. Um, yeah, especially that game four performance when they were able to take the 3-1 lead when Brunson put up 39 points, and that was huge because like 3-1, 2-2, big difference. And then against the Pacers, he was pretty solid too. He put up 43 in game one, and then he put up over 30 3 times. He had one elimination game was he was not necessarily bad, but it was a little bit more underwhelming just simply due to the fact that he didn't hit 20. Overall, though, I thought that Jalen Brunson was really good, really impressive this playoff run. So that is the reason why I had to put him top five. Pascal Siakam. So I thought that he was amazing this playoff run, and he was very consistent for the most part. And that is the reason why I have him higher than Tyrese, due to him being a little bit more consistent this playoffs. And another thing about Siakam is that obviously he has the championship experience, so he had a very good feel and he knew how these moments are like, and that he proved it. So Spicy P was one of the major reasons that the Pacers were able to get to all the way to the finals. Nikola Jokic, the runner-up MVP. So and the obviously the victim of the voters' fatigue. Otherwise, he could have won again. He had a pretty damn good playoff run. If I were to try to say, like obviously, against the Clippers, he averaged pretty much damn near a triple double the entire series, except there were a few games that he was just like 1, 2, or 3 rebounds or assists off from a triple double. That was really impressive. And then against OKC, there were some games where maybe he was like not quite as dominant, but he was still really damn good. I mean, like putting up the MVP numbers. Game, like he was very crucial in like really the fact that they were able to extend it to 7. Without him, obviously they wouldn't be there. So yeah, shout out Joker. And then number 1 would be the league MVP and the finals MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I feel like this just doesn't really have much explaining that needs to be said. I mean, like, he won the MVP and the finals MVP for a reason. So he was the best player in the league this year. And all playoffs long, leading the charge and showing why he was deservedly the MVP and the finals MVP. He probably, aside from that one game against Minnesota where he only put up 14 points, he was pretty consistent all playoff long. So that finals MVP and winning his first ring was really just the cherry on top for me. So this is why Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is number 1, and this is why I have these guys in the top 5. So are there any thoughts you have on my list before going over yours?
I mean, I have my thoughts, but you brought up a lot of good reasons why you have these 5 players in there. I do think Jalen Williams should be in the top 5. Like just simply seeing how great and he is and how much he grew throughout the playoffs, I thought he deserved a spot in the top 5 over Brunson. But yeah, I'm not mad at this. Like you brought up a good reason why Tyrese is at number 5, even though I have him number 2. You're right, he was pretty inconsistent shooting the ball throughout the playoffs, so it makes sense why you have him at number 5. Yeah, I guess my only issue is J-Dub not being in your top 5, not being in your top 10. Kind of crazy to me. but you gave a good argument on why these 5 are in your top 5. So
Yes, sir.
I guess I could go over my list, starting at number 5, Nikola Jokic. So I said Giannis was probably the best stat wise, and I'll still say that's the case. But Nikola Jokic was probably the best player that advanced past the first round, but didn't make the finals. 26.2 points per game, 12.7 rebounds per game, 8 assists per game, 2 steals per game. He did all this while being kind of slowed down. Like, these are his stats when you slow him down. Like, I gave Zubac a shout out for guarding him so well. Yet, he was still a monster against the Clippers this year. He had 1, 2, 3 triple doubles just against the Clippers alone. So that's definitely impressive. He was impressive against OKC as well, even though OKC kind of slowed him down as well. Like, they did their best. They did as good as anybody can against Nikola Jokic. Yeah, he still had a 42-22 game. He still had a 44-15 game. It's crazy that this is him slowed down. Like, this series is him slowed down when he's faced against very talented defenders, and yet he's putting up numbers like this. Like, he did have some weaker games, like I guess game 2 of OKC, 17, 8, and 6. Yet, like, those are still, like, decent. Like, it's not crazy good, but it's decent numbers. So yeah, shout out to Jokic. But let's talk about the finals, guys. Starting with J-Dub, averaged 21.4 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, 4.8 assists per game, 1.4 steals per game. Right both ends of the floor. Good defender. He had some streaky moments throughout the playoffs, but I thought it was in the finals where he really stepped it up. Had only one bad game, but that's only because the entire team was bad. So I'm not going to blame him for the loss in game 6 against Indiana. He had a 40 bomb in the playoffs, in the finals. That's some serious growth. Like, this guy, before or last year in the playoffs was a no-show. Shea was just carrying the whole time. This time, Jada truly lived up to his potential and definitely helped OKC win their first real chip. So, shout out to J-Dub. I got Siakam at number 3. By far the most consistent player on the Pacers. 20.5 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game, 3.4 assists per game, 1.2 steals per game. And I'm surprised it says 0.7 blocks per game, because I felt like he had like 2 blocks a game. Seeing him play his heart out on both ends of the floor. He had some nasty blocks. He had some nasty dunks, like in game 6. Tyrese Halliburton with that spinning pass to Siakam just to posterize J-Dub in one of the most disrespectful ways you can expect. So he's such a cool player to watch, in my opinion. Like, yeah, a lot of spin moves, but like that little fadeaway that he hits, it's money, and it looks nice when the ball goes in the net. So yeah, he didn't have the most flashy of games. I guess his best game was for sure against the Knicks, where he scored 39 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. But other than that, there's nothing too crazy, but that's okay. He was the second guy for the Pacers, in my opinion. All he needed to do was get consistent buckets, and that's what he did. Consistent buckets and play great defense, and that's what he did. So, shout out to Siakam for an amazing, incredible run this year. One of the most underrated superstars in the game for sure. Deserves all the flowers. And so does Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah, not the most consistent. His numbers aren't too flashy. 17.3 points per game, 5.3 rebounds per game, 8.6 assists per game, 1.3 steals. 34% from 3 isn't too crazy, but he is the engine for the Pacers. Like, you saw it in Game 7 after he got injured. The Pacers struggled scoring the ball, and that's because they didn't have a facilitator on the court, a facilitator like Tyrese. Like, as great as TJ McConnell is, he's not as good of a playmaker as Tyrese. Tyrese can help get other people involved and help them get points, and without him, the Pacers struggled in Game 7. So, he is a great contributor. He is a great facilitator, and at times he could get a bucket and go in, like in, what is this? 1, 2, 3. Game 4 against the Knicks, 32 points, 12 rebounds, 15 assists, dude. 4 steals as well. Like, he has those moments where, like, wow, this man is one of the best point guards for sure in the league. But then he also has his duds as well. So the inconsistency does not help, but he is the offensive engine for the Pacers, and they made it so far into the playoffs because of him and his game winners. The fact that I didn't even start off with the game winners just proves that he is so impactful in many different ways. But yeah, one of them is being super clutch. Like, he was able to get game winners or game tying shots in every single series in this year's playoffs, and that's why my respect and my admiration for him rocketed so much this year. Like, I'm like a big Tyrese fan, and I forever will be after these playoffs. So shout out to Tyrese. But yeah, number 1 does have to go to the finals MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the best player on the best team this year. 29.9 points per game, 5.3 rebounds per game, 6.5 assists per game, 1.7 steals per game, almost a block a game. Very consistent, getting his buckets throughout the entire playoffs. Yeah, he did have some very inefficient games, I will say, but he gets his 30. He gets his 30 per game. So shout out to him. At times he looked like the only offensive engine for his team. But yeah, the fact that I was talking about this in the last episode, the fact that he won MVP, Western Conference MVP, and Finals MVP, and a scoring title in a single season is incredible. And I was joking how if only he defeated the Bucks in the in-season tournament, he would have had a 4th MVP this year to add on to all those accomplishments. So, although I am bummed that the Pacers lost this year's finals, Shai deserves his flowers as well. He was incredible all year, and it's cool to see that he was able to continue his regular season success into the playoffs and win a chip for OKC. So that is my number 1. Any other thoughts on my top 5?
Honestly, I would say now that you break it down, pretty reasonable why you would put these players at where you did. Obviously, main discrepancy was you having J-Dub in top 5 and me having him towards that tail end. And obviously, another one that stood out was the Julius Randle being in your top 10 and Julius Randle not ending up being on my list. But for the most part, I would say your explanations are pretty reasonable. So nothing too much to say on that one.
All right, cool. So I guess that's our list from 20 to 1. I am very close, actually, to finishing the soda. So I'm sure I will be
Ooh,
able to finish by the end of this episode. I guess before we end it though, we should do a recap on our list. So Hoops, I'll go have you go first. Name out your top 20, but before you say your top 10, just say my top 10 is, and then go on so I could turn that into short slash TikTok. So I'll have you go first. Name out your top 20 playoff performers.
got you. So at number 20, I got Jamal Murray. Number 19, J Dub. 18, Alperen Şengün. 17, Cade Cunningham. 16, Jalen Brown. 15, Steph Curry. 14, Kawhi Leonard. 13, LeBron James. 12, Paulo Banchero. 11, Luka Doncic. So for my top 10, I have the following players. At number 10, I got Donovan Mitchell. At number 9, I got Jason Tatum. 8, Giannis. 7, Karl Anthony Towns. 6, Anthony Edwards. 5, Tyrese Halliburton. 4, Jalen Brunson. 3, Pascal Siakam. 2, Nikola Jokic. And at number 1, I got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. So that is my top 20 playoff performers of 2025.
All right, cool, cool. So top 20 for me, I have at number 20 Kawhi Leonard, 19 Jamal Murray, 18 LeBron James, 17 Stephen Curry, 16 Cade Cunningham, 15 Jalen Brown, 14 Paulo Banchero, 13 Jason Tatum, 12 Luka Doncic, 11 Giannis Antetokounmpo. My top 10 playoff performers for this year's 2025 NBA playoffs. I have at number 10 Julius Randle, number 9 Karl Anthony Towns, number 8 Donovan Mitchell, number 7 Anthony Edwards, number 6 Jalen Brunson, number 5 Nikola Jokic, number 4 Jalen Williams, number 3 Pascal Siakam, number 2 Tyrese Halliburton, and number 1 Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Those are our top playoff performers for this year's playoffs, and that is basically the video. But we can't end it until I finish. I have this much, so might as well chug the rest because it's very little. It's very little, so I could handle this much. It's like a shot. So I'll do a shot of ranch dressing soda that I will never drink this again. There's no way I'm gonna drink this again. Maybe next year. Next year we'll make another wager, but we're avoiding this. We'll find another thing to do, I guess.
Yes, indeed.
Any early
So,
suggestions as I chug this?
hmm. Shots. Everybody!
I did it. It's
That's
done.
all I can really think of, honestly.
It's
All
over
right,
with. Oh God.
Memo. So, Memo has paid off the bet. I am sure it wasn't easy,
Nope.
but at the end of the day, he got it done. So, respect. Um,
Thank you.
and I will say this, the fact that we did this for something that where we technically didn't even have a real horse in the race is practically obviously all in fun, but yeah. We will see next year. We'll probably try to come up with something else. We will definitely, I mean, we have like a year to come up with something, but um yeah, we will definitely think outside the box on that one. Um Whether it's another weird flavored soda or something else. We shall see.
Thoughts on eating bugs? I saw some bugs, edible bugs you can have at Rocket Fizz where I got the soda.
Mm. I will say this doesn't sound appealing at all. But I hear that apparently those bugs are actually really healthy.
Probably.
So it's like so it's like even though it's nasty looking, you're practically benefiting your own health. So
Yeah.
I mean like maybe that won't be all that bad. I mean, as long as there's a guarantee that I'm not gonna get sick from that, which I assume that if they're selling it, then you won't get sick. I mean, like, you know that Serge Ibaka, he had his own show, How
Yeah,
Hungry Are You?
yeah.
And then he would feed the cricket juice whenever a player like either lies or doesn't want to like tell a dare. So like, I assume it would be fine to digest, honestly. So that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. There's bugs. We could like get the bean boozled jelly beans, even though I'm kind of scared of those from past trauma. We could go the spicy route, eat something extremely spicy, but that could actually mess up your health if, depending on what you
That
eat.
could, yeah. Yeah.
Different
I am
sodas. We
like,
could go in the pain way. We could borrow our friend Alex's airsoft gun and just shoot a couple of rounds to someone's back. There's a lot of options. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
yeah, we will definitely come up with something for sure. We just don't know what yet. But we got about a year to decide, so believe us, we will definitely have something fun for you guys.
Yeah, that's for sure. So hopefully this was a very entertaining episode. People love watching the list videos. For some reason, we didn't get like a lot of views on our playoff coverage and finals coverage. I don't know why that happened, but I'm sure a lot of people will at least enjoy this list video, especially with me suffering the entire video. This was probably my least favorite video to ever record, but it might be the best episode we've ever recorded
Hey,
entertainment wise.
so I guess it's safe to say all worth it.
All
Um,
worth it. Hopefully, this doesn't become like a dud episode and nobody watches
yeah.
it, but
Imagine, imagine it ends up plot twist. It ends up being the least viewed episode. Oh man.
that would be crazy. But yeah, if you guys did like the episode and you're on YouTube, like the video, leave a comment. Maybe leave some suggestions on some future punishments. Maybe we could make more wagers more often. We'll see. We'll see. Um, Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Damn, I got major hiccups now, or not hiccups, burps. If you're on an audio platform like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star rating and review. If you would like, please check out our socials. Check out our Twitter, our TikTok. I'm gonna be trying to be posting more on TikTok. I've been, throughout this playoffs, I've been only covering playoff related stuff on TikTok, but now I'm gonna branch out more. Uh, uh, just have more variety, but obviously talking about basketball. I'll probably talk about the Drew Holiday trade tomorrow on TikTok, so look out for that. I guess it will be out by the time this video is recorded. We recorded this way in advance, so maybe something else happened by the time this episode out. Maybe, well, what's the most wild thing? Bradley Beal got traded for LeBron James because they both have no trade clause. So they just traded no trade clause. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. We'll see. I
Oh god.
guess that would be awful for us. Um,
Oh man.
okay, so hoops. Anything you want to say before we head out?
Just want to say, per usual, thank you guys for the constant support for our channel. We greatly appreciate it. We will not be where we are today without you guys. If you guys like our content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. Follow us on all platforms. Definitely make sure to stay tuned. Obviously, the NBA 2024-2025 season has come to an end. Our podcast will not. We will be coming with plenty of um, bangers and cool content during the off season, and we will make sure to keep the content because we are here to entertain. And yeah, we will definitely come up with some fun ideas. And then obviously soon there will also be the NBA draft, NBA free agency, and then I'm sure there's going to be a plenty of trades also to talk about. So we will not be short of content. You guys do not want to miss it. Make sure you guys turn on your notifications and be on the lookout because we got plenty of heat coming and you do not want to miss it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, although I am proud of our playoff and finals coverage, I think we did a great job, just like last year. We get a lot more creative during the off season, and we have a lot more fun video ideas. So if that sounds interesting to you, like this episode, if you like this episode, you're gonna like this off season. So this is definitely a good time to subscribe, even though there's no more basketball for a few months. But yeah, I guess we'll end it here. We'll see you all next week. Goodbye.